I've heard people say that evil wears many faces, but the most terrifying thing about it, sometimes it doesn't wear a face at all. Sometimes it's just there, watching, waiting for you to notice. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss future stories, and leave a like and a comment below. Trust me, you'll want to stay until the very end of this video, because the last confession will leave you speechless. The first story comes from a man who was just 17 when he says he saw pure evil for the very first and, hopefully, the last time. It was the middle of autumn in a quiet Midwestern town. The days were shorter, and the air carried that damp chill that made even familiar streets feel strange. I remember walking home late one night from my part-time job at a small diner. The place closed at 10, and my shift ended at 10:30. Normally, my older brother would pick me up, but that night he was out with friends, and I didn't feel like waiting around. I thought I'd be fine. It was just a 20-minute walk. I cut through the back roads to save time, long stretches of cracked asphalt lined with leafless trees that clawed at the night sky. The silence was thick, broken only by the crunch of leaves under my sneakers. But halfway through, I started to feel different, like the air itself was heavier, colder. And though I couldn't see anyone, I felt watched. At first, I told myself it was paranoia. I was 17, walking alone at night, and the mind plays tricks. But then came the sound. It wasn't footsteps. It wasn't the rustling of trees. It was this low, deliberate breathing. Deep, guttural inhales and exhales, carried on the wind, but somehow too close. I froze. My ears strained. The sound didn't fade, it grew louder, like someone was right behind me. Spoon harooned. The road stretched empty in both directions. Just trees, shadows, and silence. No one there. I forced myself to keep walking, this time faster, hands shoved into my jacket pockets. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. And then I noticed something that still makes my stomach knot when I think about it. The streetlights. There were only a few scattered along that road, spaced far apart, but as I approached one, the bulb above flickered violently, buzzing before dimming to near dark. I passed beneath it, and the second I did, I swear on everything, light behind me went completely out. The next one ahead of me flickered to life, glowing faintly, almost urging me forward. It was as if something wanted me to move. That's when I saw it. At first, I thought it was a shadow, just a trick of the dim light. But then it moved deliberately, slowly stepping from the tree line onto the road behind me. It was tall. Too tall. Its limbs were long and thin, almost spider-like, and its head, God, its head was wrong. It didn't have a face, not really, just smooth, pale skin stretched over where a face should have been. But I knew it. Knew I was looking at it. The air around me turned freezing. My breath came out in heavy clouds, even though it wasn't that cold outside. I wanted to run, but my legs felt cemented to the asphalt. All I could do was stare as it tilted its head, almost curious, like it was deciding what to do with me. Then, in the silence, it made a sound I'll never forget. A laugh. But it wasn't human. It was distorted, low, and echoing, like multiple voices overlapping, each one mocking me. The sound filled the empty street until I thought my ears would burst. I don't know what snapped me out of it, maybe survival instinct, maybe sheer panic, but I finally forced my legs to move. I ran. Harder than he ever run in my life. I didn't dare look back. The whole time, I could feel it chasing me. Not with footsteps, but with presence. The air behind me stayed heavy, suffocating, like it was breathing down my neck. My vision blurred with tears and fear. And every time I reached another streetlight, the one behind me would die, plunging the road into deeper darkness. When I finally reached the edge of town, everything stopped. The weight lifted. The streetlights burned steady again, and when I collapsed onto a patch of grass by the first lit house, I turned to look back. There was nothing, just a road disappearing into shadows. I didn't tell anyone what I saw that night. Who would believe me? My brother would have laughed. My parents would have scolded me for taking the shortcut. and my friends would have accused me of making it up. But I know what I saw, and sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I still hear that laugh. A reminder that evil doesn't always live in people. Sometimes, it walks among us, waiting for someone unlucky enough to notice. The second confession comes from a woman who once thought she had found her dream home. She quickly learned that evil docenti always stoke you outside in the dark. It can sit quietly inside your very walls, waiting for the right night to reveal itself. I was in my late 20s when I bought my first house. It wasn't big, just a little one-story place on the edge of a small town in Pennsylvania. The price was suspiciously low, but I didn't care. It had an old-fashioned charm. A fenced-in yard for my dog, and a quiet neighborhood. From the very beginning, though, there were oddities. The basement always smelled like damp earth, no matter how many times I cleaned it. Doors would creak open when I swore I'd shut them tight. And my dog, Max, who normally loved every square inch of any place we lived, refused to go into the hallway that led to the basement door. He would growl low, hackles raised, as if daring something I couldn't see to step closer. I brushed it all off. Old houses make noises. Dogs get skittish. That was what I told myself. One night, I woke to the sound of scratching. At first, I thought it was Max at the bedroom door. But when I sat up, Max was already lying stiff beside me, ears perked, staring at the door with wide, glowing eyes. The scratching was coming from somewhere else, somewhere beneath us. The basement. I forced myself to go check. The house was silent, except for that steady, deliberate sound like claws dragging along concrete. When I reached the basement door, my skin prickled. The sound stopped. Complete silence. I didn't open the door. Instead, I locked it and went back to bed, convincing myself that maybe it was mice or raccoons. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The next few nights got worse. The scratching came back, sometimes louder, sometimes softer. Then came whispering. I swear on my life I would lie awake and hear faint voices through the floorboards. Too muffled to make out words, but urgent, like whispers pressed against my ear. By the fourth night, I barely slept. I tried blasting the TV to drown it out, but Max barked at the walls as if something were moving inside them. And then came the night I'll never forget. It was past midnight. Rain hammered against the roof, and thunder rolled in the distance. I was sitting on the couch with Max curled up next to me when the lights flickered. For a split second, the house went completely black. When they came back on, the basement door was open. I know I had locked it. My chest went tight, and Max leapt to his feet, teeth bared, barking wildly at the dark opening. Every instinct in me screamed to run out of that house, but instead, I grabbed the nearest thing I could use as a weapon, a fireplace. Poker on stepped toward the door. That was when the smell hit me. It wasn't damp earth anymore. It was rot, thick, suffocating, putrid rot that made me gag. And underneath the stench was a low vibration, like a growl that didn't come from any throat, but from the house itself. I should have left, but I couldn't. Something was pulling me forward. Not physically, mentally. It was like my own thoughts weren't mine anymore. I felt compelled to step closer, to peer into the basement. Max refused to follow. He stayed rooted, barking at the shadows. I descended 3 steps, gripping the railing so tightly my knuckles whitened. The light above flickered again, casting everything into stuttering frames of brightness and dark. In one of those brief flashes, I saw something at the bottom of the stairs. A figure. It wasn't solid. It was like smoke, like shadow, but shaped like a person. Its arms were impossibly long, its head cocked unnaturally to the side, and though its face was nothing but blackness, I felt its gaze burn into me. I froze. My body shook uncontrollably as the smell of decay grew stronger, searing my lungs. And then it moved. Not by walking, not by crawling. It surged, like a cloud of black water rushing upward. I stumbled back, screaming, dropping the poker. Max lunged forward, teeth snapping at the air as if trying to protect me. In sheer panic, I slammed the basement door shut. The impact shook the frame. The growl deepened, echoing through the walls until every picture frame rattled. Max barked furiously, his body pressed protectively against my legs. I held the doorknob with both hands as if my life depended on it. Then, silence. The stench dissipated. The vibration stopped. I didn't let go of that door for nearly half an hour, even after I was sure nothing was pushing back. The next day, I packed a bag and left the house for good. I never even tried to sell it. I left the mortgage behind, drained my savings for an apartment, and never looked back. People asked why I left. I lied, said it was because of foundation problems. But I know the truth. That house wasn't empty. And I can't help but wonder how long it sat there waiting for someone like me, someone alone. Someone vulnerable to step inside and finally see what lived beneath the floor. Because evil doesn't just knock on your door. Sometimes, it lives in your basement. The final confession is from a man who claims he met evil not in the woods or in an old house, but in the most ordinary of places. His own workplace. It's a reminder that sometimes what you fear most doesn't come from outside, it walks among us, hiding behind human skin. I used to work the night shift as a security guard at a hospital. It wasn't glamorous, but the pay was decent, and the job was usually uneventful. Most nights ED just sit behind the desk, watch the cameras, and patrol the halls every hour or so. The hospital was quiet after midnight. Too quiet. Sometimes, the kind of silence where even your own footsteps feel out of place. I learned quickly that hospitals at night are nothing like during the day. Without the bustle of doctors, nurses, and visitors, the halls feel endless, sterile, and wrong. One night around 2 a.m., I was doing my routine walk when I noticed something strange on the monitors. In the east wing on the 4th floor, one of the cameras showed a figure standing completely still in the hallway. It wasn't unusual to see a patient wander at night, but something about this froze me. The figure wasn't moving at all. They were just standing there, perfectly motionless, facing the camera. I radioed upstairs, asked if any nurses were doing rounds. No response. I tried again. Silence. So, against every instinct in my body, I went to check. The elevator ride felt endless, the fluorescent lights above humming like they knew where I was headed. When the doors slid open onto the 4th floor, the air was different. Cold. Still. The hallway was empty. I walked slowly, flashlight in hand, trying to convince myself the camera had glitched. But halfway down the hall, I saw it. A pasanor. What looked like one standing at the very end, dressed in a hospital gown, skin pale against the dim lights. They weren't. Not even breathing, as far as I could tell. Just staring. "Sir." Premedica let out. My voice echoed unnaturally down the corridor. "Are you lost?" No answer. I took a step closer. The figure tilted its head slightly, the motion jerky, mechanical. My stomach turned. I could feel my palms sweating against the flashlight. That's when I realized something horrifying. The gown was wrong. It was old, yellowed, fraying, stained with something dark near the hem. Nothing like the standard hospital issue, and their eyes, God. Their eyes weren't right. Too wide. Too dark. I forced myself to step closer, and as I did, the overhead lights flickered. Just for a second, but in that second, the figure vanished. I froze, flashlight trembling in my hand. The hallway stretched empty before me. My breathing echoed in the silence, ragged and shallow. I turned back toward the elevator, ready to leave, when the sound hit me. A whisper. It wasn't coming from behind me, or it was everywhere. Surrounding me, layered, distorted voices, murmuring words I couldn't understand. The sound rose until it felt like the walls themselves were speaking. I bolted for the elevator, mashing the button over and over. When the doors finally opened, I nearly dove inside, but just before they closed, I glanced back. The figure was there, inches from me. Its face was inches from the doors, Eyes so black, they seemed to bleed into the skin around them, and for the first time, it smiled. Not a human smile. Too wide, too sharp, stretching farther than a mouth should. The doors closed, cutting it off, but I swear I heard it laugh low, guttural, echoing down the shaft as I descended. When I reached the ground floor, the cameras were normal again. Every hallway was empty. But I knew what I saw, and I knew it wasn't human. I quit that job 2 weeks later. I didn't tell anyone why. Some things you don't explain, you just carry with you. Pray and they never find you again. But late at night, when I drive past the hospital, I can't help but glance up at the 4th floor windows. And sometimes, I see it there, still watching. 3 people lives forever changed. They all described it differently. A faceless figure in the road, a shadow in the basement, a thing pretending to be human. But they all came away with the same realization. Evil is real. It doesn't care where you are, how safe you feel, or how much you tell yourself it isn't there. It waits, patient and silent, until you see it. And once you do, you'll never forget. Because once you've looked pure evil in the eye, it never truly lets you go. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to these terrifying confessions. Don't forget to like the video, leave a comment, sharing your own experiences, and subscribe with the bell turned on so you don't miss the next set of true horror stories. Trust me, what's coming next will keep you up tonight.